So we are here walking. Did about an hour or so earlier, and we're doing another maybe working out a little bit today. But staying moving. Just had some oatmeal, 2 scoops of protein powder, a little bit of beef liver, creatine, and trimethylglycine, and just sticking with it. And thinking about something very pivotal, and that is that there seems to be a confluence, a conjugation, a chimera, an amalgamation, an expression of the same person in social media, where there virtually is no individuation with the videos that are made, the logic behind certain expressions, the language model that's being used, regardless of language structure, that is geographical influence. When you look at the closed captioning and the transcription, the translation, you will see that people speak in the same nuanced colloquial way, right? So this leads into the startling realization that if we're to say that someone is conscious, what aspect of them is conscious, right? So in other words, if you're thinking, not only, through the existential expression of dialectics, through expression, but you're actually at the base thinking and prompted from the same motivations, the same memory pool, right? The same derivations, that is, the minute differences and changes between people and what gives rise from the nexus of why somebody does something, the motivation behind it, the energy that's put into it, the logic that surrounds it, right? From the foods that people like, it's becoming generic, banal, synonymous, ubiquitous all around. And it's becoming alarmingly evident that we're dealing with a singular consciousness. That's you and me and everybody else, that everyone thinks the same way, reacts the same way, to the point where you can almost see them like they are a school of fish that is being directed by these AI algorithms, right? To where people's, from a social engineering perspective, you have this Google computer system, this pervading global system that has turned everyone essentially into video making production, traveling production factories, right? So all that anybody really can do is talk about themselves, what they've done, and there's no more perks. It's how transparent and how translucent you are as to lay yourself out there. The cancel culture is active. It's almost like skeet shooting or duck hunt, if you've ever seen that, or more like what was that thing where those little squirrels come up, and I never really got into that game, but that was real popular for a long time, where you smash the heads of these little squirrels that pop up out of these holes, right? It's more like that as an analogy, right? Where you get rid of any entropy-based refraction that can come back up and bite you, to where we're in a terrible time right now, politically, socio-politically, where any advancements that were being made to end the good old boy network in these niche communities have been thwarted, to the point where, like, even with the civil rights lawyer, I don't remember, maybe that's his name, but you'll look at these stories that he did a year plus ago, that you'd think that there'd be some updates, and no updates, because the tyrannical aspect of the good old boys network, it's been bolstered. Money's been put back into it. The hush, shh, don't tell type of thing, where people can deviantly make their way through. Don't you see that these good old boys are akin to gossipy women who cancel culture each other out until one is the head of the PTA that's an atrocious person running on a 2-bit syllogistic algorithm, right? Where it's just about sucking your cheeks in, name dropping, and getting nothing done. And then really extortion, right, out in the open, where it's like, we're going to need money for this cookie drive, and this and that, and well, I should get paid something, right? And just this loudmouth person. And then the same thing's happening in these good old boy networks, where they turn into these tyrannical rapists, really, where they treat, they're in this long procession of rape. Actually, they violate people's rights from the moment they go to bed. They get a snicker, they enjoy it, they like having this connection with other good old boys, as to think, look at this easy job we got sheriffing this area, and all we have to do is keep these wee little people incited and afraid, and that's the law, right? Whereas no, we believe, even though it's a constitutional republic, we believe that we live in this democratic union. We believe the only thing that gets us up each day is that there's this presupposition of an egalitarian democracy, but that doesn't really exist, and that's capitalism could somehow be bent in your favor. And then you look at it and you're like, no, it never has been. You got to make it in with these corrupt people who call themselves individuals, right? And they're the ones that are in the Shriners Lodge and the Freemason Lodge, running the sheriff's department, head of the Rotary, head of the PTA, the wife of the sheriff, or the niece, or the whatever. It's all in the family. And then even more so, as you begin to look at it, the family tree is an inbred family tree. And as you go back and you look at the family historicity, these people go back generations. The names are the same. The affiliations are the same. You see these townships that are run by the same fucking people. And if you follow it back, they were the same bureaucratic, abusive, narcissists that were not running things, but running things down, keeping them at a low energy hum, right? So what I'm saying is we are being forced into this characterization where we have taken on this singular persona or personality. And when you really break it down and you begin to look at it through this planned engineering, if you want to call it that, from an existential sense, or from an even scarier perspective of the engineering and the expression that comes from our very genetic prompts, right? And then getting into this internet of bodies, cymatic control mechanisms, and other influential items of discovery that are becoming more prevalent all the time that really state that there are only so many personalities. It's not really about Myers-Briggs or Kirsty temperament disorder or any of these, or the Plutchik's wheel or Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or even the zodiac itself. There is a very generic aspect to who is going to be open, available, and accessible to the distribution and the utilization of consciousness itself. In the way that if you are anything outside the spectrum of the detail, right, of this particular individual, this archetype, you are not allowed to advance. Right? You are canceled out. You'll have no fuel. You'll have no funding. You'll have no job. You'll have no place to live. You're canceled out. If there's any individual expression whatsoever, right? So when we're seeing the byproduct is us. It is this this proletariat, this plebeian, this figure that begins to look a lot like Raskolnikov from Crime and Punishment, a very generic, sort of washed out character that could only be described as the impending unavoidable incel that we see as a muted form of a male, right? I keep trying to remember what it's annoying. I keep trying to remember what a eunuch, right? So the eunuch, the male has become the eunuch, right, as this Statue of Liberty character that doesn't exist, right? This Columbia character that is neither male nor female, but something has entered into the crucible that now lies very stale, dormant, empty, and undeveloped, right? For somebody to willfully say, fill me up with whatever it is that society, the cosmos, from a universalist perspective, fill me up with and imbue me with whatever you will. I'm empty now. I've chosen this. It's not even about wanting to exist. It's I want to see what's next. And many people think that this is just neutralizing the aggressive, more male, violent component that is getting something done ballistically, right? Breaking free, forging ahead. That this has been the plan all along, right? And that it is this transhumanistic effort as to essentially create this avatar, crucible, empty shell of a human form, right? That is in fact at the will, at the ready, at the bequest of this AI, right? This transhumanistic AI. Where I believe that something much more in depth is happening there. I think that has been and become a firewall or an endpoint to further cement. Don't look beyond here. Don't look past here, right? These are not the droids you're looking for. These are not the people you're looking for. This whole Jedi mind trick thing. So, where it's going, it has more to do with an engineering where principles themselves, pure principles, are not being recognized, adopted, or sought after. So right now you see this war occurring between two factions, but the war that represents purity and pure principle can't call it itself any particular religion, can't say in any unified effort that this is taking place as a campaign, a supported campaign where there is a whole army behind it, yet people are realizing this individually. And that's why I say the importance of bolstering up the power of one, right? To build this unity within you as an individual, to bring about and solidify the pure source within you and expound upon that in the principles that you have left all the way to your dying breath. And it probably will come much faster to we who exercise this purity, but that a universe or a cosmos that is devoid of principle and devoid of purity isn't a cosmos or a universe that anyone that is truly living would want to reside or live within, because instantly you become the prisoner, right? You become the one that is hunted. So just wanted to lay that out there, as abstract as it seems. If you really think about what I was just saying, in summary, I'm talking about the fact that we've been reduced down to one central persona or personality. And when we look at ourselves, the things we say are wants, needs, whims, desires, it's the same as the person next to you, right? So when you think that you're thinking on a higher scale, the playing field and the amalgamation of this center, like when you create this postulate and say, what would this character say? That's exactly what you say and the person next to you would say, right? So it's becoming this generic uniform expression. And then the next item in summary is that people that try to break outside of this are reduced and canceled out, and that they are forced into supplicating and taking on this Rosicrucian sort of hermaphrodite form from the outside, but this sort of internally lustful, complete lack of purity, but believing in one's own false light, and then carrying that beacon, that liberty, right? Not freedom, liberty. It's very different. Not principles, right? But principalities. You really got to think about this, because this is like the dividing line that I'm talking about that really identifies. It looks like a small little difference, but in that little difference, it's going to turn out to be a chasm, a canyon that separates people. It's going to be much like, the North and the South.